50 years ago, a dedicated American surgeon died alone in a cold jail cell far away from home. He was arrested based on planted evidence, accused of being a foreign spy, possessing a firearm. He was beaten, mocked, and whipped, and brutally interrogated to his last days. On the early morning of February 10, 1951, he was hung. His colleagues witnessed the body covered with wounds. Bill Wallace underwent terrible anguish and agony the last weeks of his life. But he came prepared, long ahead of time. "Go on back and take care of the hospital," he told the staff before he was arrested. "I'm ready to give up my life if necessary." Wallace was born in Knoxville, Tennessee in 1908. As a young man, he was gifted with mechanical talents. And although his father was a well-respected physician, Wallace expected to work on cars for the rest of his life. However, one balmy summer, while working in the garage, shirt off, he picked up a Bible, the New Testament, and wrestled it with questions. What should I do with my life? No, what would God want me to do with my life? Wallace heard God's call to missions, and immediately he enrolled in the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, and later would go on to medical school in Memphis. After the death of his father, he came back to Knoxville where he practiced medicine. There, he was offered a well-off life to become the partner of an outstanding surgeon, in which he turned down. Wallace knew that his path was that of a different one. The preparation by Bill to serve as a medical missionary would answer the plea of Dr. Robert Beddoe, an MD serving as administrator of the Stout Memorial Hospital in Wuchao, China. At the very same time as Dr. Beddoe was in need of a medical surgeon, Wallace felt the timing was just right to apply to the Foreign Mission Board. Although Wallace was a well-practiced doctor, he was anxious about his calling, because he was not a good speaker nor apt to be a teacher in Wuchao, China. However, in 1935, 10 years after his calling in his garage, he was appointed to be a surgeon 7,000 miles from home in Wuchao, China. That year, Wallace traveled to China. Immediately, he became well respected as a gifted surgeon and a committed servant of Christ. A fellow staff member of the hospital once stated that anyone looking for Wallace would find him with the sickest patient. Wallace would operate in the mornings and learn Chinese in the afternoons. Each day, with each and every patient, Wallace told them about the love of Christ. And soon the hospital grew busy, and people of all classes were coming to Christ. Wallace operated during the Japanese invasion of China, and in the city of Wuchao, they faced bombing from Japanese bombers. One time during a severe bombing in the hospital, Wallace stayed with a patient who could no longer move. He comforted him with words of prayer, and by the grace of God, Wallace and his patient were not injured. However, as time progressed, Japanese aggression expanded and increased. The mission board wrote to Wallace, calling him back to America, as it was not safe under any circumstances. Wallace, in reply, refused, writing back, "This is where I am supposed to be." When the occupation of Wuchao was about to occur, Wallace got his staff and equipment loaded on boats to evacuate on the West River. They would head to Puesh, where he and his hospital formed a mobile clinic, as Wallace knew that no matter the circumstance, there was an opportunity to help war-torn China. During their refuge in Puesh, Wallace and his group of faithful healers would endure many hardships. But in the year of 1945, after the Japanese aggression died down in Wuchao, they returned. Then, in the next 6 years, Wallace would rebuild the Stout Memorial Hospital, where he would serve as a surgeon again, this time treating the wounds of communist soldiers during the Chinese Civil War, eventually even earning their respect. However, at the start of the Korean War in 1950, intense American propaganda arose in China. And in December of that year, Wallace would be arrested, accused of being a spy, because authorities found a gun under his bed. After he was arrested, he was put in jail and died only 2 months after. Wallace's story is that of a true witness to Christ. Although a man of quiet nature, his actions and service spoke love. Wallace's story is that of a true witness to Christ. Although a man of quiet nature, his actions and service spoke love to the Chinese people during a time of suffering and agony. After arrest of Wallace, a police commissioner demanded the citizens of Wuchao to denounce him, but no one would. Wallace was a man characterized by compassion, humility, and obedience to God. He lived among the Chinese not as a foreigner, but as family and friend. His Chinese friends would later put up a monument that engraved the words of Apostle Paul: "For to me, to live is Christ."